show off how well Microsoft's 2020, how well the scenery generates itself. Like, what they do is they take big maps as you fly around a certain area. They take the satellite images and build the area that you can fly over, and generates it like the satellite images do. I'm currently at the Kissimmee Airport, runway 24. I mean, the Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new one, it has generated or has done a lot more than the previous versions. I'm currently in the Cessna 172, which is one of the most common aircraft that general aviation pilots fly. It's got the glass cockpit, that's the G1000 Garmin system that you see. So within Microsoft Flight Sim, you can play around. You can use their air traffic control, which you can see up here, and you can see how I can talk to the air traffic control here. But there are other programs that you can go live with, like a free one's VATSIM. Another one that you pay for is Pilot Edge, so you can actually talk to actual real live controllers. Another thing is you can do real life weather, in which I think, actually, let me double check that. I think the weather I chose is clear skies, because I think there were storms or something. It was kind of cloudy from what I saw, that it wouldn't have been a great day to fly down there. But I'm gonna take off, gonna kind of fly up over Kissimmee, fly over Disney, and kind of show off how well the scenery builds itself. Not going to follow the actual flight rules, because certain things I'm going to do will violate the real world flight rules. For example, the levels I'll be at over Disney, you have to actually be above 2,000 feet or above. The way you take off VFR, depending on the airport you're at, they have certain traffic patterns you have to follow, which I'm going to violate a lot of those rules. I mean, you can take the simulator way beyond, and actually do what real pilots do. And it's actually a good way to learn. I wouldn't say learn to fly, because most people that know me know I've been trying to do this for a while. And actually, the picture that's on my Facebook from like 2 years ago, the aircraft that I flew is actually an aircraft you can fly in here. An updated version with the glass cockpit. The aircraft I flew did not have the glass cockpit, but kind of the same things. So, gonna not talk as much. Well, I'll talk a lot, but let me get going. I don't think I have a lot of. I don't think I have the traffic on, so I might be the only airplane in the air. So you won't hear me talk to or hear a lot of people talk on the frequency for the airport. And yes, you can simulate, like I said, simulate the weather, and it simulates how that single piston engine, how that the propellers twisting does cause an airflow over your wings, and you actually have to adjust with your feet with the rudders, which I do have the rudder pedals and have the joystick, well, not a joystick, but the yoke. So I'm gonna fly out to the west a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn back to the north so I can pick up 192 and kind of show off how well they depict the scenery. I will use autopilot on this so I can zoom in and zoom out and do external views to kind of show. Like I said, violating the rules that I would normally have to follow when departing, etc. Alright. Autopilot, no, heading. Gonna ease it back. And yes, you can actually use the autopilot that way. But for those that know, I'm about to fly over 192. That's the Walmart. That's medieval times. So I'm gonna, like I said, slow it down. Turn to the west. I mean, like I said, people that know the Kissimmee area know that right above me is the Orlando International Airport airspace. So, alright, so like I said, that's Kissimmee Airport back there, 192. And gonna actually turn that way. I mean, it does depict what they do. Like I said, is they take big maps and they download the images and it recreates the images from the satellite images. And yes, I have actually found where I currently live, where I've lived in the past, like here in Kissimmee, Orlando, up in Kansas. So, I mean, places I've lived in Michigan. So it really does depict everything, which I will show you when I get over to certain areas, like you know, Walt Disney World. So that's 192 in front of me. For those that know the area, you can actually see that citrus, which I think is an orange, but that's that coming up. And over up the left side of 192, it actually depicts Old Town. It depicts the swing and everything. Gonna kind of fly over that.
Cessna 5 Mike Foxtrot, you are leaving my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Kissimmee Tower, Cessna November 895 Mike Foxtrot, frequency change.
Like I said, that's the normal ATC, which is it's kind of accurate, but not 100% accurate. But you can see 192. You can see the swing, which I've done that. You can see the slingshot coming up. It's great how it creates that. And I don't have the greatest computer in the world. I have a decent one, and I'm actually flying or doing this with a medium kind of setting, so it records well. But for the sports fans, coming up, that's I-4 192, but coming up is the sports complex, the Walt Disney World Wide World of Sports, and that's where the Atlanta Braves train. At least when I lived there, that's where they trained. Actually went to a Atlanta Braves Red Sox intermediate kind of squad back in what, early 2000s. Slow it back down. But yeah, that's the stadium that they play at. You know, like I said, I'm gonna fly over certain areas. So that's a sports complex right below me. Gonna fly over and check out Animal Kingdom. And yes, the aircraft does work that way, that you can just turn a knob, and once you have the autopilot on, so you can actually do that. You're gonna do a circle around Animal Kingdom. You can already see the parking lot coming up. Like I said, that's why I'm doing autopilot, not following the flight rules, so just kind of showing off how well the simulator depicts itself, how it builds as you go along. So you can see Animal Kingdom parking lot. I know the Tree of Life is in there somewhere, but because of all the trees that are around, it doesn't depict it very well. But it depicts a lot of buildings, like flying over where Mount Everest would be. And about to come up on where the Kilimanjaro Safari is. I'm gonna circle back around. Yeah, I'm using autopilot because it's a whole lot easier than myself trying to talk and look and actually fly the aircraft, because they have improved how the aircraft does react. Because anybody that's watching this will know that, you know, there are 4 points to how an aircraft flies. You know, it's basic stuff. You know, thrust, gravity, lift, drag. So, to not have to fight the controls and do that, do an autopilot. But one thing that Microsoft has done is the previous versions they had only had those 4 points. Now there's over like 100 points on the aircraft, and what that kind of means is the actual weather will affect how the aircraft flies. If I was in freezing conditions and flew through a cloud with this aircraft, you would see the windshield, your wings would freeze over, and it does affect how the aircraft reacts. And eventually, because if you get frozen over, you will become like a brick and you will crash. So it does depict all that. I should say it does simulate all that. We're going to go back over to Sports Complex, follow 192, pick up I-4, and fly over downtown Disney. Yep, the Sports Complex. And outside of previous versions of the flight simulator, the basic package that you get, a lot of these systems actually are working within the current flight sim. You know, within like the G100 or G1000, I should say. All this stuff does actually work. And like I didn't show, you can do a checklist and how to start the aircraft, and do the run-ups, request, from air traffic control for taxi clearance, where you're going to do, where you're going to go. You can do that within the flight sim. Is it 100% accurate? No. It's a basic version of it, but you can take the simulator like this. I can actually log onto a different program and would actually have to follow and use the proper call signs and request and what I'm doing with actual air traffic control if I wanted to. But coming up on downtown Disney, you can already see the main administration building. I can actually see where Circus du Soleil is. I can see Disney Quest, Virgin Records. I know House of Blues is in there. But you can see like I-4. There we go. Sorry, check my watch. The news is popping up. But just you can see how they depicted the main administration building, parking lots. Like I said, that's I-4. See Planet Hollywood. See the casting building. Like I said, it's not generating as good as it could because I do have it on a medium kind of setting, so it's not that great. Plus, I'm using a Wi-Fi internet. Like I said, they download the images as you fly over, and I know if Ashley watches that video, I know one of these hotels was one of the hotels you worked at. That's the Crossroads. And go back in and circle back over and head towards the MGM Epcot area. But I know I'm using live weather, so it's well, actually, am I using a live weather? No. Nope, clear skies, so. Yeah, I chose clear skies because I wanted to do the video. Duh. But yeah, you can see like downtown Disney. I think they changed the name. Not 100% sure. Somebody will correct me on that. I'm going to turn towards the Epcot MGM area. But yeah, I know certain people that might watch this. Yeah, I'm upset that Pleasure Island's gone, just like a lot of people are. Alright, coming up on Epcot. So I believe that's the extended version of 536 that goes out to World Drive. But you can see the main parking area for Epcot. You can see Spaceship Earth. You can see the test track coming up. You see World Showcase out there. You know, and off in the distance you can see MGM Studios. But even they depict the monorail tracks. You can actually see the monorail tracks going out, which we'll follow that later and go over to the Magic Kingdom later. But like I said, it's just the satellite imaging and they recreate what it looks like. One of the things, you know, I worked at the Swan and Dolphin for many years, and it really does depict the Swan and Dolphin that way. I mean, just, yeah, like I said, you can see Yacht and Beach, Boardwalk, the Swan and Dolphin. Gonna circle, well, for those that know World Drive, that emblem, I think, was the emblem from Tower of Terror. That's on World Drive. Let's circle back around. But you actually can make out I said, Swan Dolphin coming up on any of the studios. You can make out like where Tower is. You can actually make out. Oh, sorry. Where the Indian hat, earthquake, the stunt show area. Jones. I don't know if they depict where the new Star Wars land is, because that's very current. Don't know what the satellites actually depicted that image. But I'm gonna circle back around. Going into Flower World Drive and go up towards the Magic Kingdom. And yes, you see the cars going crazy. I'm not sure what hotel that is. No. The All-Star Sport Music is way over. Is that the Nickelodeon hotel? Like I said, been several years since I've actually been down here. No, oh yeah, actually that might have been the Nickelodeon hotel. Like I said, been several years since I've actually been down to the Orlando area. Alright, so there's Epcot. Well, yeah, the Swan Dolphin. See the pavilion. I mean, just the way that the imaging goes, how they do it is great. Alright, I can see World Drive. I can already see the racetrack. You know, and like I'm showing, it's amazing how well it depicts everything. Or generates, I should say. And for those, for a history lesson, this road that's, if my mouse is showing up, the road that's here going from south to north is the actual runway that Walt Disney landed on when he was purchasing the land. But you can already see the racetrack, the entranceway. They even got the gates there. You can see the parking lot, Grand Floridian, Ticket Transportation Center, how the monorail tracks go over there, then come up to the Contemporary Resort, which I need to turn a little bit more north. Kind of want to show off how certain things look, but yeah, that's the original runway. I know it's like a storage area now for certain things. Not sure what they're doing, but flying right over Fort Wilderness, as you can see. Coming up is the Contemporary Resort. You can see the monorail tracks actually being generated. The Contemporary Resort. You know, off in the distance, you can see where the buses go in. You can see Main Street. You can see the castle, Space Mountain, the Wee People Mover. Was that Toontown? We're gonna kind of go out a little bit, kind of show people what a lot of people don't see. So the ferries and all the boats come back and actually get docked back here for repairs. And that big warehouse, I know, houses all the decorations for the Magic Kingdom as far as like Halloween, Christmas goes. The building you'll see the monorail tracks going to, and the train tracks. I worked there. That's where we clean and maintenance was done on the monorails. This big parking lot with the green building and that green U-shaped building, this is all the employee parking lot for the people that work at the Magic Kingdom. Gotta circle back around before I get too far out. Yeah, like I said, I'm using autopilot just because myself trying to fly the thing and talk at the same time and watch certain things. You know, I'll be up, down, up, down, up, down. And head back towards the south. Like I was saying, that's the main employee parking lot. Everybody's got to get on a bus and get driven over to Fantasyland. You know, there is a tunnel system under there. But what I'm flying over my left wing here, the power plant, which is actually that power plant does power Magic Kingdom Contemporary, Grand Floridian, Polynesian, the original first park. So Disney does have its own power plant. But flying right over the Grand Floridian, you'll see the wedding pavilion coming up. You see the monorail tracks, the station, Polynesian, and off over to my right is, I think there's like 3 golf courses within all that. I know one was used for a PGA Tour. Can't remember the name of the event, but you can see Polynesian Ticket Transportation Center, and you can see the parking lot for all the guests. You can see the racetrack, which I know they had 4 events at the racetrack, 2 Indy and 2 NASCAR truck events. They were in January, which both Indy and NASCAR said that's too early in the season, because if anybody's a NASCAR fan, they know that in February they go to Daytona, so it doesn't make sense to have a truck series in January. Same with Indy. But with the help of my sister, Erin, worked a couple events and actually seen Tony Stewart when he drove IndyCar before he got into NASCAR. That's how old I am. But just read that looks. Alright, going to depart the area. Gonna head up towards the Orlando area. I just kind of want to show off also how it depicts like Universal Studios and downtown Orlando. And like I said, not following the actual flight rules that you're required to do in real life. Because one, couldn't be at that altitude. I was doing that over Disney. 2, where I'm about to go, I would have to either talk to Orlando Approach or the Orlando Executive Airport, because I know where I'm going to go. I'm within a flight path of a landing runway for the Orlando Executive Airport. I can already see that blinking light is actually the active runway for Orlando Executive. But if I would have picked up I-4, which I'm hoping to do over here, you can actually follow I-4 and go where it goes. You can actually follow any road that you want to and you know, follow that. Because I actually did that with my roommate Darlene, bless her heart. Actually followed exactly how we leave the house, the roads we take to get her to work. So it does generate that well that you can point that out. And actually I'm gonna make a right turn here, a little more to the east, because I can see where the convention center is, and I can see where is that 528, and I can see where SeaWorld is already. So I'll do a little circle around SeaWorld. Yeah. Yep, that's I-4. That's 528. Actually, one time I was going like home, there was a tanker that exploded on the 528 going to I-4 westbound. That blew up. You can see that thing for miles. It unfortunately was loss of a life, but I won't address on that. But about to fly over SeaWorld. Not sure, like I said, satellite imaging, so something's being built there. Not sure when the images were taken, but you can see flying right over SeaWorld. Look at that high tower. You can see actually you can, look, you can see they got the images, SeaWorld, right on the building. That's funny where Shamu is. And is that the Atlantis roller coaster? You can see all that. Is that Wet n Wild? I thought Wet n Wild was gone. Hang on. Let me circle back around. But I thought they took down Wet n Wild. See, that's how accurate this is. It's like, hey, wait. I know I saw things where Wet n Wild was being torn down. I think that's Wet n Wild. Yeah. Look, like I said, it's just satellite imaging. They don't come in the only things they come in detail are certain airports, like Orlando International. Looks exactly how it would look in the real world, just like, you know, the John F. Kennedy Airport in New York, Boston, Chicago, LAX, you know, Heathrow over in Europe, you know, and many other airports they did do. I should say went and detailed them exactly. But it's almost like I'm flying over. Alright, gonna find Universal Studios. I mean, just flew over SeaWorld, so we gotta do Universal Studios. Like I said, what I'm doing is not legal as far as flying. I mean, unless you have permission, which most of the time they'll go, no. unless you have actual permission. And I can see Universal Studios coming up. I can see the parking garages. And I can see Orlando off in the distance. Alright, like I said, just flying over Universal Studios. I'm flying right over the parking garage. You're going to see like Islands Adventures, Dr. Doom, the Hulk, City Walk, Hard Rock Cafe. Coming up is the original Universal Studios with the lagoon and where the parks are, and Men in Black, and what used to be the building for Back to the Future. I think it's now the Simpsons. And that's a backstage area, which I was there one time. They were detonating fireworks. They were, getting rid of fireworks, and had an explosion, blew out all the windows back here in this neighborhood. I'm gonna circle back around. Actually, I'm gonna slow down. And what you just heard me do is I extended flaps so I can do a low-level flight at a low speed. Coming back around. Let it level out. Alright. Back up on Universal Studios. You can see the Men in Black. You can see where Jaws used to be, but it's now Harry Potter land, I think. And they got a tramway that goes from there to Islands of Adventure. Now, I know my niece Ashley, she goes there a lot, so she might tell me, is that the tramway that goes across? Tell me. I don't care. But that's the employee parking lot. I mean, I'm actually flying over Dr. Phillips High School. You can see the sound stages. You can see, I don't know the name of that roller coaster. It was built after I left the area. But you can see like fire and ice. You can see, well, you can depict a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's Dr. Phillips High School. Oh, those are rich bastards. You can see Marble Land. I mean, it's almost like I'm flying or actually over the stuff. How well it depicts. Or generates, I should say. Depict. But generates. And you'll see current flashes in the scenery, because like I said, as you fly over it, it generates and downloads the images and builds. And then actually I'm about to fly over an area that you're really not supposed to. Actually, you can't even drive in there. Martin Marietta, where they make the Patriot missiles. That's actually kind of where I'm flying over, which shouldn't be. But look, you can see my shadow of the aircraft. yeah, just flying around. Yeah, you can see it gets better and better as you go over. Not sure what water park that is. Like I said, haven't been down in the Orlando area for several years. And like I said, more likely what I'm doing is beyond what I could do in the real world. Because I know Orlando Executive Airport's off my right side. I'm right in the flight path of it. But speaking of Orlando, we're going to head towards the Orlando area. Bring flaps up, increase speed. You can already see the buildings. Yeah, I mean, from this distance, they look like peaks, but it's generating the images as it goes along. You can see I-4. You can see, like I said, that flashing light. You see, that's the active runway for Orlando Executive Airport. The international airport is way out that way, but not gonna worry about that. But I-4 does come up and turn around. And within the sim, I-4 is actually built for those that are watch this that live in the Orlando area. Yeah, they don't show the construction, which like I said, a couple years ago, what, 2-3 years ago, I was down there, just driving down I-4. The construction was so bad down there. You know, and when I post this, if it goes, I'm doing it live on YouTube, but I'm gonna post it to Facebook. But for anybody that is a real world pilot, I'm not being tweaked about following the flight rules, like I've said. Coming up on the Orlando area, you can already see the Amway Stadium or Amway Arena, which actually it does say Amway on the top. That's where the Orlando Magic play. The SunTrust Bank, or whatever they call it now, but you can see Lake Eola, you can see Church Street. Gonna do an external view. See, like the amphitheater there. Alright, I actually want to check something out. Kind of flying north. Want to see if follow I-4. If I think it's channel 2 or channel 9, not sure. If it actually depicts the building with the tower that has the Doppler on it for the weather. I want to see if it depicts that. So we're going to follow I-4. Actually, I think it does. I can already see a building with a peak coming up. So I'm going to fly over. I think that's the Lake Mary area. Yeah, I can already see it. I mean, like I said, I've done and you know flown around a lot of areas, and using certain charts, like I'm about to show you, like using these charts, finding certain things. I've actually found the Michigan Speedway where they hold, you know, 2 NASCAR events. I've actually found Gillette Stadium, and it does actually pull that up. So, I mean, I can fly out and show you Daytona if I wanted to. But yeah. There you go. That's, I think that's WESH Channel 2. Got the Doppler on top of the tower. So I could fly out, show you Daytona, but I'm actually going to fly towards where John Travolta lives. How do I know where John Travolta lives? Well, you know, the airport that he lives at, or I should say airport community. When I first tried to get my pilot's license down in Kissimmee, they used to do a thing called hamburger runs, like $100 hamburger, because it costs you $100 to rent an aircraft, fly to a certain area, eat the hamburger, and then fly back. I mean, obviously, that was early 90s, so nowadays it's more expensive. And actually, the airport where John Travolta lives was open to the public back in the early 90s, but now it's not, because many people went there going, hey, want to see where you live. So they made it a private airport, which you actually need permission in the real world to land there. But going to fly there, which is just northeast of Ocala, and I'm going to show you how a pilot goes, hey, where are you going to go? I mean, I can use like this VFR map that I'm pulling up right now. Most current pilots actually have a tablet or another system that they can use that and see actually where they're at within charts. And like I said, charts are more, you know, like this, which, you know, you have to learn how to read them. You know, what different airspaces and restricted airspaces and what airports. But Jambalaya Air, that's where I'm going to go. And where I'm at is in this area, which I should actually be talking to air traffic control, but I'm not about doing that. Not in this video anyway. So, I'm going to fly to where John Travolta lives and going to buzz his airspace. and actually I'll probably land there and call it a day, but I'm gonna show you how, like within the system, go direct to. I know the airport code already, so just punch 1. So just punched in 17FL, which that's the airport code for that community, that airport community that John Travolta lives in. So gonna enter, activate, boom, and you'll see like that purple arrow just showed me what direction I need to go. And like I said, the altitude I'm at, yes, I'm not following the exact flight rules. But you can see up here where I'm at, going there, 48 nautical miles. That's the heading I need to be at, 324, going 324. How long will it take me? About 25 minutes. At the current speed I'm doing. So, if those that wish to continue watching me just fly for a straight line for a few minutes, I'll be in here. And like I said, not following the actual flight rules, going from north to south on the westbound side, it should be at an odd number, so I can actually be at, or I'm sorry, an even number, so I should be at 2,500 feet, and actually I'll do that. I'm gonna set my altitude for that. I'm going to show you how. How the system works. And what I did is I, turn on, was on autopilot, but set the altitude to 2,500 feet, put on the flight directory the pink/purple arrows that you see, so increasing my throttle and going at a increase of altitude at 100 or 800 feet per minute. So it's going to bring me up to that speed. And I know, like I said, the people, oh, you should be at a certain speed, because I can pull up a thing, and that VY 74 knots is the preferred climb rate for the Cessna 172. But like I said, not following the exact parameters of how everything goes. So you'll watch the autopilot. So it's recognizing, alright, you're about that altitude. And one other thing is, like I said, I'm not using real world weather at this point. That 29.92 is the air density that comes in, and depending on what the weather is in the area you're at and what altitude you're at, it depicts how to measure how far off the ground you are. And why does that come into play? I'll show you. Alright, so we're gonna fly to where John Travolta lives. Open up a chart. So, estimated elevation is 100 feet MSL. So, that's where that measurement comes into play. Because if my altitude says I'm at 200 feet, I'm actually only 100 feet above the ground. So that's why you have to use that measurement to adjust what the instruments say. You know, it says I'm at 2,500 feet. If that reading was a few inches above, it would, my aircraft thinks I'm at a certain altitude, but it would show I'm only at a certain altitude. And if you're in bad weather and you can't actually see the ground, that really does come into play. But what I'm doing is actually called, you know, VFR flying, so you actually use the visual cues. But yeah, like I said, you could pinpoint where the hell you live, because I've actually done it. So if somebody sends me their address, I can actually put that in and actually put a pinpoint on the map, and for, you know, the longitude of where you live, and actually fly right over where you live. I'm gonna turn back the RPMs. But like I said, if you want to take this simulation, you know, a lot of people say it's a game, but it gets far more in depth. You can actually do more with the simulation than you could a game. If I wanted to actually follow the real world flight rules and talk to air traffic control, there are programs out there that you can do that with. I mean, I can do it within the sim. Is it accurate? Not from what my knowledge is. It's decent, but not accurate. I mean, like I said, people that know me, I've been trying to get my pilot's license for a while, and I was actually going to do it, but wound up getting, you know, leukemia, for those that don't know, but got that. So, you know, I got the training materials, you know, back in my room over here on the desk, so I can actually, you know, follow everything that I would do, and you can use the simulation, this, you know, Microsoft 2020, you can use this as a training tool, as long as you have a, you know, quote unquote syllabus, you know, a training outline, like things to practice, like how to taxi, and, you know, how to contact air traffic control, and you can use the simulation for that. How the aircraft actually react and fly it to get that real feeling, not so much. Because I'll tell you, when you take off, I mean, you really have to be, if a roller coaster makes you sick and you can't ride a roller coaster, then flying a general aircraft like what I'm in, it's not for you, because when you take off, there is that up and down. Your stomach will go up and down, so you can't get sick or motion sickness, and you have to actually depict what you're seeing versus what your mind and body is telling you. Like a lot of people know about, John F. Kennedy Jr., how he died. And as somebody that's a aviation fanatic, I understand what the hell happened to him, because he had a cast on, I think, his left foot, so his left foot on the rudder was causing extra things going on. The weather he was in, he couldn't depict where the horizon was between. Like if you look out what I'm showing you now, you can see where the horizon of land and sky was. What he did, he was over the ocean. He took a shortcut instead of following the landmass going across Connecticut and then going down towards Martha's Vineyard. He took a shortcut, went straight over the water. And he couldn't, because of the overcast of the clouds, you can't depict where the horizon is, because you have gray clouds, the water becomes like a mirror, so you can't depict that. So his instruments was telling him to do one thing, which he wasn't instrument rated, so he's looking at certain things, so he's trying to correct the aircraft, but what his eyes are telling him, what his brain's telling him, is totally different than what his body was telling him. So he wound up doing a flat spin, just following the horizon and certain instruments he was looking at, which was the basic instruments that are like down here, like mainly that one, and his altitude and the compass. His aircraft did not have what I'm looking at. So he wound up doing a flat spin, and one of the main thing was his cast, I think was on his left leg, was overweighted by that. So he wound up in a flat spin, couldn't correct out of it, and crashed. I mean, just when he took off from just outside of New Jersey and flew what he was going to do, the weather was alright, but the weather coming in over Martha's Vineyard and Cape Cod and eastern Massachusetts area was bad. Most pilots would have gone, not going to do it, because the conditions he was about to get into would have required him to be what's called IFR, instrument rated, and he would have had done that to actually land at Martha's Vineyard. I mean, that happens a lot. Actually, like I said, if the simulation fly into a cloud when it's below freezing, the aircraft will freeze up and depicts that, or simulates that. But it's sad that he went out that way. But actually, if you look at where a lot of major general aircraft accidents happen, is actually up in Alaska, because of the weather that happens up there. Yeah, I'm rambling on, but kind of enjoying what I'm doing. I totally enjoyed the flights and stuff. I'm about 11 minutes away, about 20 miles away, or nautical miles away from where John Travolta lives. I'm going to step away for a second, be right back. Back. You know, and one of the other things with this flight simulator, you can play anywhere in the world, and it will, you know, depict the scenery and or generate. I keep saying depict. I don't know why, but it will generate the scenery, and you can fly anywhere in the world. I have noticed certain discrepancies, like certain airports aren't there. You know, like I live in the Michigan area, so like Jackson, that airport, it's there like scenery wise, but as far as within the simulator, it does not show that you can take off, land from there, or talk to the air traffic controllers that are there. Don't know why. I've actually put a ticket in for that to Microsoft, like, why is that airport not there? I mean, they have that VOR, the navigation system, which is a different topic. I just kind of checking. You know, I don't know why that airport's not there. I mean, like I said, scenery-wise, it's there. I've actually landed on it, but for some reason, you can't talk to like the air traffic control or actually start from there, which is kind of disappointing. But for those that are watching, for people that know me, you know, like I said, I live up in the Michigan area. Like I said, the scenery does generate. I've actually flown over Michigan, Michigan State University, and then Michigan University, and like I know a good friend of mine, Kevin, he's been to the big house, and actually I flew over the big house, and it actually depicts the stadium, or you know, generates stadium, and actually has the blue and gold M within the stadium. So, you know, and like I said, you know, flew over, you know, where the Patriots played, Gillette Stadium's there, Fenway Park's there, flew over that. You know, I mean, I've flown out of Boston and gone into Chicago, you know, gone into LA, you know, so been over a lot of areas, like Las Vegas, been over that, done that. So it really does pull up a lot of areas. You know, been over New York City. You know, you can fly around the Statue of Liberty. You can go down fly over, downtown Manhattan, go up and down New York itself, or fly over Central Park and find Times Square. You'll find all that. I mean, but like I said, it generates the images. I mean, there are certain areas that are detailed, like the Kennedy, JFK Airport. So all that's very generated. The bridges are there. You can see the Empire State Building. You can actually see the Freedom Tower. You actually fly around. You can see, the monument stuff that they put up for the trade centers. You can actually see that. And like I say, you can fly over the Grand Canyon. It actually makes the Grand Canyon. So the mountain ranges are there. And for those that I know, my family, from the Northeast, I've actually flown up and over Mount Washington. It does show the road that you can take up to Mount Washington. It does show the observation center that's on top of Mount Washington, and it does show the railroad tracks that go down. So you can do that. The only thing I tried to fly over Mount Rushmore. I found where Mount Rushmore would be, but it does not generate the presidential faces. So I know somebody might go, hey, Concord, New Hampshire, is the Man in the Mountain there? I don't think it will be, because Mount Rushmore is not there. But I haven't actually tried to find that. And how do I find it? The charts I just was showing earlier before. It actually, I can show you. It does bring up certain things. Actually, I'll go towards more Orlando. You'll see like that restricted airspace, but it does show peaks and airports and where towers are, certain nuclear power plants, and like you're seeing right now, that orange space over the Kennedy Airport. So on today, in about 6 hours, something's going to launch him from the Kennedy Space Center. So that's restricted airspace, so nobody can fly into that. And you'll see certain areas. Let me bring it up closer. Like DC, can't fly in there without permission. I think that's it. But also, like if you go out to the West Coast, you can see security areas where the Border Patrol is watching the border between Texas and Mexico. But you can also see like all the flight hazards because of smoke from all the fires that are going on out west. But enough about how that chart works. That's a lot that goes into that. Alright. So 4 miles away. So actually I can see the airport coming up. I'm kind of gonna fly over. It does depict what John Travolta's house looks like. It does not show the planes that he owns parked there, and they actually, I've landed here before, and they made where John Travolta lives where you get fuel and the main parking area. So I'm going to do an external view. So it's actually crazy that they made that house like the place to get fuel. But you can actually see on the runway, they've extended it, made it big enough for his 707 to land. And being that, looking at this, I'm getting kind of low on fuel. But I can actually see, because I've actually flown over this in real life. I can see where his house is blocked off by trees. You can see the bigger runway, and you can see that's how his house is. 707 would be parked here. I think it's a Learjet or a Cessna Citation, I think, would be parked over there. But that's John Travolta's house, and this is where he lives. Like I said, they've extended it. They've added extra areas because he has that 707. You can see that. And that yellow X you see. You can't land this way or take off that way. It does not depict that on the charts. Like I said, that's a private airport. You have to have permission to land there, or you have to live there. So, I mean, within the sim, it does simulate the towers. But I'm going to turn off autopilot. Going to circle back around and land. And how I'm doing this is in no way, shape, or form of exactly how you would do it in real life. Because there are certain patterns you have to follow when entering the airspace of a airport that you're going to land at. You gotta kind of, well, if it was left patterns for where you live, actually I would be entering the 45, going way too fast. So enter and then would turn downwind. And when you would announce this with air traffic control, I mean, it's an uncontrolled airport, so it would be on a certain frequency announcing where I'm at, what I'm doing. And like I said, way too fast. I'm going to slow way down. Actually, look. Trim. Alright. I'm going to turn on my. And then, like I said, yeah, I'm way too close. It might be alright. Yeah, now the reason why you see me shaking is me using my yoke, just playing around, showing how it works. A lot of people don't realize with an aircraft, when you get to low speeds like this, the way to gain altitude is not pull back on the stick, like pull up like that, like you just heard, gonna stall. The way to do it is increase your thrust so you have more air under your wings to cause lift. Like I said, we can, if you want to actually learn how to fly, there's plenty of things to do. So I would actually call out to air traffic control, which I'm not going to do. Turning I'm on base. But you'll hear me use the throttle to gain and decrease speed, or altitude. So it would call going on final. And actually, if you look at the airport, you'll see the arrows leaning up to a certain area. You actually can't land right where that black spot is going up. There's actually a spot that is designated for aircraft to land, and actually off to the left you can see the lights, and they're both white, which means I'm above where I should, what the altitude I should be at. It's kind of like a signal, like you're too high or you're too low, or so I extended my flaps and get ready to land. So those white arrows is basically saying I need to land where those white solid lines are, at that point or just beyond. And you can see one went red, one is white, so I'm right on the track. I'm going to cut the full throttle, going into what we call a flare.
Stall. Stall.
That's kind of what you want. I mean, kind of, it sounded hard, but you heard just like stall. I was only a couple feet above the runway. So you want to kind of land that way, like just before you're about to stall, you're like a couple feet, like 2-3 feet above the runway, and touch it down. It did sound rough, but that's kind of how it does, because all of a sudden your wheels go from not spinning to how fast you're going, and it's basically like a drag car taking off, going brrr, but also a slam on the ground. Alright, I am going to park the aircraft, and I am going to end this video. I hope it gets uploaded. I hope if anyone's watching who enjoyed it, but I'm gonna end the video.